Hey, welcome to Classic Car Garage, the classic car restoration how-to television show where you're going to learn all sorts of tips and techniques that'll help you with your restoration. Well, if you saw our last show, you know that we found our project car, our 68.5 California Special Mustang, and what a car it is. Unfortunately, it's a basket case, and we've got our work cut out for us for the next 13 weeks. On today's show, we're going to be welding in a floor pan. We'll show you how to do that. We're also going to clean up our project car and remove some of that surface rust, as well as take you out to the Route 66 Rendezvous and a trip to memory lane. So what do you say we get started? Jerry's in the shop right now. Let's go see what he's up to. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
How you doing, Jeff?
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too, sir.
Well, I see you're busy at work already here on our Project Mustang. For the next 12 weeks, we're going to go through the complete step-by-step restoration of this car. And we want to show the home hobbyists things that they can do themselves. Now, if someone brings home a basket case like this, what do you recommend is the first thing that we want to do here?
Well, in our car, we want to finish taking out the front and the rear window glass.
Okay, now this is something that the home hobbyist can do, right?
Oh, yes, very easy.
Okay, go to it. Let's see how we're going to get started here.
Well, first of all, this car doesn't have the moldings. If it did, we'd want to use a molding removal tool such as this.
Right, now this is a specialized tool that you can get in any good auto parts store, or I believe Eastwood Products carry something like this as well.
That's correct.
Now, why do you want to use a tool like this instead of a screwdriver?
Because a screwdriver will damage the moldings. This enables you to get up underneath the clips and remove the clips away from the body so the molding will pop off.
Right, and the key here is patience, because those moldings are very, very easily bent, and they're expensive too.
That they are.
Okay, so once you get your moldings off the car, next.
Well, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut the rubber along the top here. Now, you have about a 1/4 inch between the bottom of the rubber and where the glass actually sits, as you can see in this corner here.
Right, the rubber has separated here so you can see where the glass ends, and you want to cut just above that, right?
Correct, otherwise you take a chance on scoring the glass.
Right, and if you score the glass or damage this, this doesn't come cheap, does it?
No, sir, it does not.
There's about $200 for a windshield, and that's $200 in our pocket if we do it right.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is a two-person job, by the way, too, right?
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're very careful, and you want somebody to support the window as you're trying to lift it out.
Okay, good. Now, do we have to cut all the way around the windshield here?
No, sir. All you want to do is cut across the top and down both sides, because once you get to that point, you can easily tilt the window up out of the car.
Okay, great. Let's get started on cutting our windshield. I'll go on the other side and give you a hand ready to lift it out.
Very good.
Okay, let's get started cutting here.
Just want to be very careful, because especially when it's this brittle, you want to make sure that you have a sharp knife and that you don't cut yourself. Slice it like that, and then just go ahead and peel this off.
Okay, so one hand here, one hand here.
Just as support, and just give it even pressure.
Just some even pressure. There you go. It's coming out really nicely and smoothly, right?
Now what you're going to want to do is lift up from the bottom to relieve it from this lip down here.
Okay, so lift straight up this way, right?
Correct.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
And just go ahead and set it right up there for right now.
That was easy enough. Okay, that wasn't hard at all.
Nope.
A little bit of help and a little bit of patience, and almost anybody can do it. Now, it's a matter of simply just pulling this stuff
peeling
right
it off and
right?
cleaning it up.
And there's nothing fancy about this. It's just good old hard labor. And these are some of the things you can get the kids to help you with, too. This is a good job for the kids. There you go.
Thank you.
And it's really that simple. And then we'll go ahead and clean this up a little bit too.
Right, we're going to want to make sure that we get all this really, really clean, all this sealant and stuff. You want to make sure you get it all the way off. That way when you go to stick your new windshield in, you get a good tight seal.
Right, okay, tell you what, let's do the same thing to the back window.
Very good.
All right. Well, Jerry, taking out the windshield and the back glass was easy enough. What do you say we get started with the engine compartment here now?
That's good, but first, before we do, let's go ahead and, I mean, obviously our engine is already out of the car and a lot of pieces already missing.
Right.
But for the average person who's just starting off, you either want to take a video or a still picture of your engine compartment, so when you go to put it back together, you make sure that it's all together.
Right, the way it's supposed to be. We've got some assembly manuals, but there's nothing like having it documented on tape or film.
Nothing beats a picture reference.
That's right. A picture's worth 1,000 words. So let's take our own advice. I've got a camera right here, and let's go to shooting this engine compartment. By the way, these pictures are going to be in the World Wide Web at www.classiccargarage.com. We're actually really taking the pictures. All right, that looks good and good. Okay, Jerry, there you go. You can toss that on the waste heap over there. Well, we're on our way to taking all the parts off the engine compartment here. We'll get this thing stripped down completely, and then we'll go on to our next task, which once again is not a complicated project, is it?
Not at all.
It's just actually cleaning up our project car. And are there any sort of special tools or special chemicals or anything we need to do that to get all the 30 years of grime and dirt off this car?
Gonna need quite a few brushes, some 3M Scotch-Brite pads, and some good old 409 and elbow grease.
That's right, just a lot of labor. Okay, so we're going to take care of that for you. And when we come back here on Classic Car Garage, we've got another treat. We're going to take you out to the Route 66 Rendezvous. And then later on, we'll take a trip to memory lane to look for parts for our project car. Stay with us. There's more Classic Car Garage right after this. All right, next up on our project car, because contrary to popular belief, it does rain in Southern California sometimes, and one of those 2 rains we get a year, this car was out in one of them. We've got a nice little surface coat of rust right here. What are some of the ways that we might take this rust off the car?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. You can use an abrasive wheel, you can sandblast, or you can use a product like the Eastwood company has. It's called Rust Remover, and it leaves a zinc phosphate coating on it.
Right, which is very good for the prepping of the paint and so forth. Now,
yes.
Why would we not want to sandblast this car? You can get sandblasters.
Yes, the problem with sandblasting is that it can create a lot of heat, and heat will distort the metal.
Right, on sheet metal like this. If
yes.
you're going to sandblast things like door hinges and so forth, those real heavy pieces,
right.
That's going to be okay. And we will show you some of that sandblasting in a blast cabinet that we will be using in a couple of weeks here. And grinding it off, again, is going to create a lot of heat, right?
It's going to create a lot of heat, and it's going to warp it pretty good.
Right, so probably the best way for the home hobbyist to go is to use a product like the Eastwood Rust Remover here, and it's really simple to use. Eastwood has a variety of products that you can use for your home restoration, and they're all right here in this catalog. All right, the Eastwood Rust Remover is not difficult to use, is
Nope,
it, Jerry?
not at all. Basically, just take a cloth, fold it up, and apply some to your cloth, and just wipe it on.
Okay, let's see how well this rust remover works.
Just wipe it on like so. Nice even strokes.
And it's taken the rust right off of there.
You'll see the rust comes right off of there.
Right, now this sheet metal was already stripped of its paint. Had it not been stripped of its paint, obviously we want to go through that process first. And
yes.
We're going to want to clean up the sheet metal with some quadruple, triple zero steel wool.
Exactly.
Okay,
you want to make sure you get all the grease and dirt off.
Right, to get it down to this level. Okay, so the Eastwood Rust Remover works pretty well.
Yep.
What do you do when you need a part for your project car and it's not available either as a reproduction or an OEM? Well, you come to a place like this, Memory Lane in Sun Valley, California, where they have between 600 and 700 project cars at any one time that you can buy either as complete cars or you can pull parts from. And today we're here on a hunt for a hood for our Project Mustang. And you know what? I think we have come to the right place.
Once we got to Sun Valley, Memory Lane certainly wasn't hard to find. The sheer number of cars to choose from, as well as potential project cars, can seem at first kind of overwhelming. But with a little help from behind the counter, it was easy to find just what we came for. Whether your brand is Ford, GM, Mopar, or one of the independents, chances are they've got just what you're looking for, or they'll have it soon. They've also got a nice assortment of vintage trucks. Of course, we were looking for Mustang parts, and they certainly did have a lot of cars to pick from. Once you sign in, you're pointed in the right direction, then you can explore on your own. And once you find what you're looking for, the mechanics will pull your part for you. From sheet metal to interior parts to complete engines, if it's pre-74, they've probably got it. And they pack and ship parts. Even engines, all over the world. And if you've got an older car to sell, they'll even send their car carrier to pick it up for you. Hey, I think we found our next project car, and it doesn't even need to be repainted.
Well, if you're like me, you could spend days in a place like this, but we don't have that kind of time. I've got to get back to the shop with the hood for our Project Mustang. I would suggest next time you're out in Sun Valley, California, you look for your parts right here at Memory Lane. We're finally getting to some of the real restoration work here on our Project Mustang. And as you remember, our Mustang has some rust in the floor, and we're just about ready to replace that floor pan. Now, Jerry, you have been doing a little bit of cutting on our floor pan here. Tell us what you've done so far.
Well, basically what I did is I took a marker and marked out the rusted areas. All this area inside here has been all rusted out, so we're going to trim around that and eliminate this area.
Okay, and you use the cutoff wheel in order to cut here all the way up to this point. Why'd you stop here?
Right, there's a structural support that runs from the front to the rear of the car, or actually to the midsection of the car, and you don't want to cut into that, so you want to make sure that when you get to that point, you want to lift the wheel up just a little bit so it cuts the floor pan but not into the structural support.
Okay, and then how are you going to separate this whole pan over this structural member?
Well, what we're going to do is go ahead and pull it up, lift it up, and then use our hammer and chisel to eliminate the spot welds.
Okay, great. Let's have at it.
Okay.
Okay, Jerry, now that you've got the floor pan cut out, what's next?
We're going to go ahead and measure our opening so we can get our new floor pan here to fit.
Okay, now how are we going to measure that?
Well, basically what we're going to do is going to measure each corner from each side, and you want to overlap about a 1/2 inch.
Okay, obviously because you want to cut out so that you have more metal on this floor pan and not enough. Exactly. It's easier to cut back than it is to add metal.
That's correct.
Okay, let's get measuring here.
Okay.
Okay, Jerry, so now the floor pan is cut, it fits perfectly, you've ground off the edges using a grinder. What's next? We're going to tack weld, right?
That's correct.
Okay, now, where are we going to tack weld?
We're going to go to the corners over here and put one in the middle here just to hold the floor pan down tight to the floor.
Okay, so I guess I need to hold this for you.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and start tack welding.
Make sure you put on your mask.
Right. Okay, Jerry, now that we've tack welded it, what's next?
We're going to go ahead and run a bead all the way across and then grind it off with the grinding wheel and then go ahead and put a little bit of seam sealer to make it a perfect finish.
Right, and then our floor pan is done.
That's correct.
All right, so that's welding. Now, we didn't want to give you a welding lesson. If you buy your welder from the Eastwood Company like we did, it'll come with a video that'll tell you how to weld. Really, it's a good overview, but you really should have a little in-person instruction from someone who really knows how to weld. And of course, never forget your mask here. Stay tuned because the new product segment is coming up next, right here on Classic Car Garage.